Well, it has been a while. Um, Let me introduce myself. I am Splurge, Nathan, whatever you want to call me. Um, this is a bit of a new thing that I'm trying here. Um, I'm gonna try and actually debrief my UDL season. I actually haven't checked where this box shows up for. That reasonable? That reasonable? Yeah, that's reasonable. Okay. Yeah. Uh, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and debrief my whole season of UDL. I don't know whether this is going to be a single video. I don't know whether this is going to be an actual set of videos or not. But I feel like this has been a really positive building season for me. And actually I want to document it, and I want to try and do something towards actually constructively analysing what I did well and what I could have improved on. But yeah, so a little about UDL for those who don't know. It's a ridiculous, it's an absolutely bonkers league. I feel thoroughly privileged to be playing in it. But so just looking, yeah, you can see this. Yeah, you can see this. Looking at like the coach list, I mean, we have the corrupt commissioner himself, Carson, Kaz, Big Boy Nick, Zazo, Gohan, me, Aki, Blitz, SK, Illusion, TJ, II, the boss, Maddie Brolick, Sebi, TDK, like former TD admin of Smogon, TDK. I definitely tried not to fangirl when I heard that he was going to be joining and playing. Hiker, Blue, Silver Smasher, Obi, Anti, another of like, oh, what's the word? He's a Smogon boy. Yeah, I can't remember the word that I'm thinking of. Yeah, he's another big name inside the Smogon scene, along with Obi, but I think Obi played last season. I'm not certain. I can't remember. I've tried to put season 2 out of my brain. But yeah, and then Helmy, Jake, Ice, and season 2 champion I think was Rob as well. I'm gonna say so many wrong things here. I apologise in advance. But yeah, so I just want to try and document what went on this season, and yeah, UDL Nuts League. I find myself eternally privileged that I'd be playing in this. And so we all of like the top 12 in this list. These are the people in my conference. Yeah, going into this, I wasn't really certain whether I wanted to play in the first place, because to cover season 2 in as quick as painless amounts of time, I drafted horribly, I played even worse, and generally it was at a point in life where I didn't have the time to be able to really be playing Mons, and I tried to, and it did not go well. But I love playing the game. I love playing draft. And when season 3 came round, I was actually in kind of a relatively positive place in terms of my Mons playing, and I wanted to give it another go, because I did feel at the end of season 2 like, well, that was my opportunity, and I didn't want to be kind of like a wasted spot in this league, because the talent is just so top tier. And yeah, it was like heading into season 3, I did have doubts as to whether or not I would be able to actually bring my best to this, because I wanted to really actually go for it and have a good crack at this and show that I'm better than what season 2 was. And so I had a conversation with Matty basically saying that. And so here we are. We played in season 3, and season 3 has actually gone really quite well. Hence this. I struggle to highlight when I have not done as well and things. which is definitely a weakness in and of itself. You need to appreciate that when you don't do stuff, you're not going to do well at certain things, and you need to address that. But so this was definitely a more positive season, and there is still definitely things that I can take away from it and learn and build on, and this is part of the building aspect. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try and do it semi-properly. So this is as much for me as it is for you guys, because actually if anybody who's watching this has anything else constructive to say from what this is, please DM me, talk to me, tell me that something that I said was absolutely hideous, and here are the reasons why, because actually what you did was either sensible or what you did was even worse. But yeah, so UDL runs 3 different generations as well. So we have ORAS, Gen 6, Gen 7, Gen 8. And so we drafted for each. And so let's go take a look. Let's go find my pretty self. I think I was given the bottom wheel for ORAS, if I remember correctly. Everything that, yeah, I did. And so UDL actually opened up a couple of extra mons, and it did do last season as well. And I'll be honest, last season I managed to completely confuse myself about my drafting direction. This season I went a lot more know what I know, and don't try and giga play myself. And so kind of going through the draft, there were mons that were left on the table, and it's like they actually fitted relatively well with what I wanted to do. So we ended up with Lando T, Clef, Core, which I love Clef, not to the same extent that Theodore does by the sounds of it, but just Clefable is so useful for so many things. And yeah, Lando T, the Chad himself. We also got Latios in Gen 6. I was heartbroken at the point when I asked Matty, because Soldier is not mentioned in the rules, but I asked him just to double check so I didn't BM anybody, and I got told that I wasn't allowed to use Soldier in Gen 6. So big sad there, but we move on from these things. But yeah, and then we got Superior, Jellicent, and Fortress. I believe around about Jellicent and Fortress time in the draft, I decided that I want Mega Houndoom. And I actually wanted Tentacruel for this draft, because I wanted in Gen 6 it is such a bonus to have a mon which is actually a good mon and is also clearance. And it's like Latios does that, but the thing is though, is I don't want Latios to be my only clearance option here. And actually Tentacruel filled that relatively well as well. Admittedly, it is not a brilliant mon, but it is still more of a mon in my opinion than Fortress. But unfortunately it got sniped, so I had to adapt, and at the point in the draft that it was, I had neglected picking up those both mon and also clearance mons, so I ended up taking Fortress. Mega Houndoom, which I thought actually, it was like 5 points or something in the pool. I've just realised that most probably I've been showing you just everybody else's drafts and not mine. But so Mega Houndoom, yeah, 5 points. Yeah, you'll be able to see that. Yeah, Mega Houndoom 5 points, and that's like, to me, that was too good not to miss up. So hang on, if I scroll this down, I think you should actually now be able to see. But yeah, and then finally Magneton, because I felt like I needed at least another mon with some sort of steel typing to deal with other fairies, especially as I was missing out on a poison type, and I didn't want to double down on I didn't want to pick up a psychic type, I don't think. No, not a psychic type, a poison type. I just didn't want to pick up a poison type, I think, because I can't remember why. I think, looking at it now, I think it was a dumb opinion, but I think it was like I didn't want another round weakness, even though it would only be 2. I don't know, either way. I went for Magneton. I think it was because actually it had electric typing as well, so I had something that could hit flying types. Yeah. We then get to Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, where I think I was middle of the pack for the draft. I may have been close to the rear end again. Yeah, I was pick 8. And again, it's just like, I wanted to play simple, so like Mew Megalopony Core is really quite good. I enjoy using Heatran, and then Gliscor synergized up with that really nicely, especially with Tangrowth as well. Like those 3 of Heatran, Gliscor, Tangrowth is kind of quite like the synergy there. They balance each other out relatively well. Quillfish was nice for utility, and Aromatisse was I'd left picking up a fairy late, so, and Aromatisse was still on the board, so it's a bit of a no-brainer, but it meant that given that it's only 8 mon drafting and the relative power of the drafts, I was going to struggle against dragon types, because actually we only play 3 games in each tier, in each meta, and so it's like I couldn't really fit Aromatisse reasonably onto a team, and I don't think I brought it any weeks. I may have brought it week 5, not certain though. And finally, Crawdaddy, because Crawdon is just good. It's a good solid mon. It was a dark type that I desperately needed. This draft is fighting weak, but equally though, it has like 3 of the best soaks for fighting type hits in terms of Gliscor, Tangrowth, and Aromatisse. Those 3 just kind of sit in front of fighting types relatively easily. I mean, Aromatisse is set up bait, but we ignore those things. And then finally we have Sword and Shield, where I think I was quite early in the draft. Yeah, I was 4th in the draft. Will you be able to see that? Yes, you do. Brilliant. No, go away. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so for this, there was an opportunity to pick up Libero Cinderace. I did not want to miss this. This was an opportunity to play with a mon, which you couldn't usually play in Sword and Shield, and actually I think that, yeah, it was actually, it's not a difficult mon to build around, and using Gen 8 Zapdos is really quite decent. And then there was still Lele on the field, and then there was still Melmetal there, and I had a front 4 which looked disgusting. At which point, kind of like the back 4 became a lot easier, because all I needed to do was cover relatively kind of like the weaknesses of this lot. So it's like Tentacruel covers Cinderace, and it covers Zapdos to a certain extent, and to a certain extent Lele, not properly, but Umbreon sorts out Lele's issues tenfold. And then like Mudsdale and Tangela cover they cover Melmetal as well. It's just like this felt like the easiest draft of the 3 for me, because actually most of the things that I wanted just fell to me, and it wasn't difficult. The notable thing here is that I don't think on any draft I actually picked up a dragon type. Yeah, because it wasn't a dragon type in Gen 7. Yeah, oh no, there was Latios in Gen 6. But yeah, Gen 6 is probably the only one where you're going to really feel not using a dragon type, specifically for the typing. I mean, dragons in and of themselves are very strong, so they should be picked up anyway. It's not like in Gen 7 and Gen 8 with fairies outpouring of mons, they became obsolete. It's just that you lose a lot less from not picking them up in Gen 7 and Gen 8, relatively. But yeah, so week 1 we played the GOAT himself, Zazo. Tony, he had a really interesting team. Let me quickly find it. Yeah, he was pick 2. He picked up Gen 6 Aegislash, so it has the -2 drop on King's Shield. Rotom Wash, pre-defog and Nasty Plot, so it's okay, but this is also the meta of busted Thunder Wave. Hydreigon, which has yet to really fill in its boots because it doesn't have DD from Gen 8 and Gen 7. It enjoyed having Z moves, but yeah, it's kind of like, it's okay. Keldeo is a flipping monster. I don't understand why it got left till pick like round 4. Find me a switch into Specs Focus Blast that isn't like Mega Sableye. Uxie is really good. Rhyperior again. Rhyperior's okay. He left his Mega late for Mega Aerodactyl and Roselia. So my thinking heading into this was that actually his team does not have recovery. The only 2 mons that do are Aerodactyl and Hydreigon. Aerodactyl suffers 4 move slot syndrome for this matchup, and Hydreigon versus my team, it kind of gets baited to run Scarf because it can counter Latios, but equally Latios is something that really enjoys running choice moves, so I wasn't exactly surprised if Hydreigon was running a non-boosting set, like maybe like a sub or something like that, because actually my team doesn't enjoy playing in subs all that much. I don't have phasing really, I don't think. Maybe, not sure. Either way, there were jokes going around before this game that so I have played Tony once before and I beat him, but it was because of a very specific superior set which just happened to fall into my lap that it counter-teamed his team. It just counter-teamed. I didn't need to say team a second time. Yeah. So the real thing here was actually just trying to have a bit of sustain on the team and waiting for his team to just kind of chomp itself to bits and trying to take damage on very specific mons. The mons being like Uxie, Aegislash, Rotom Wash. But all 3 of those mons kind of go down relatively quickly if you just pressure them a bit because they don't have reliable recovery. So it's like the prime thing was knock off on Landorus. It clears out a whole lot of issues. Super Fang on Mega Houndoom was really handy here, and Mega Houndoom in general caused a lot of issues, it being a fast, special, dark type and fire type. It was just like, if you wanted something to shut down an Aegislash, it would be it. And I think I also ran Taunt and Destiny Bond. I can't exactly remember the thinking about this, but if there was a game that I shouldn't have won this season, it was this game, because I did not put any thought into the prep, and frankly I ran off instinct in building it, and coming to the end of the season and what I've learned from the start of the season, that's a slap on the wrist. Bad splurge. Don't do that again, because it's just you're handing your opponent an easy victory because before the game's even started you haven't put in the time that they have. But yeah, so we're going to head into the game, and so I think I lead Landorus because I was relatively certain that Uxie was going to turn up, and I was Pasho, but I was fast because I was eternally scared of Keldeo, and I needed something that could actually sit in front of Keldeo and actually do damage to it, because Jellicent gets chomped on by a sub-calm mindset with HP Grass. Admittedly, that then suffers from coverage issues, but it's like the Keldeo was in my rushed prep, it was such an issue. You can probably hear the gardening that's going on outside. I'm going to close the window. But yeah, so I led Lando. I was relatively certain that Uxie would probably run Ice Beam or some sort of coverage for Lando just to try and catch it, as they're both good leads. But I was more certain that actually the priority here was going to be setting up rocks, I think. So I just went for a knockoff turn 1. Okay, no, I didn't. I set up rocks, and then I went for a knockoff. As Rotom Wash came in, so it's like first major move of the game. Okay, I get a Scarf off. I was wanting to get lefties off because over my dead body, do I want this to be taking for it to be getting free recovery even more so because it's one of the mons that I can pressure. I U-turned out on the HP Ice in Superior and just went for a kind of straight as you like Giga Drain. The Roselia comes in, I switch out into Lando as the T-Spikes go up. I immediately want to U-turn out. I want to get into my defogger for this game, which is Latios. It's Choice Scarf as well, but so it scares out the Aerodactyl, which is kind of handy, and so I'm able to switch into Houndoom on the Uxie, and so here begins the fun and games. So having a free switch into Houndoom is just like it's such a free gift in this game. Because Super Fang does so much, and it's like I immediately get a Super Fang into Hydreigon, and it's like this thing switching in onto this. It has Earth Power, but it's not gonna. If it was a counter, it would have come in after something drops, or it would have come in on a free switch in. It doesn't come in on a move. I mean, given the fact that really you're only going to be running Dark Pulse and Fire Blast, okay, it might come in on a move, but so the Super Fang will have probably caught Tony off guard a bit. And so in my head, I was just the fact that this switched in straight away, it immediately yelled, "This is Roost." So I was running Taunt, and so I immediately Taunt up here because it's like if it's Scarf, then I get, so I do drop Mega Houndoom, but I get a free switching into something else. Because the only thing that will drop it is like a Draco or an Earth Power, and Latios is Scarf, so it's a free hit with Latios. This is probably flawed thinking in and of itself. I make a brave play here based on my confidence that this is not an offensive Hydreigon. I get rewarded for that as he did go for Roost. And so this gives me now a free switch into Clefable. Clefable is actually a setup Clefable for this game. It's Cosmic Plow, Moonblast, Fire Blast, Soft Boiled. No stored power because I couldn't reason to actually have it on the Mon as Hydreigon hard walls it, and I needed Fire Blast for coverage on an Aegislash, which also would have deck shared it with a stored power. So actually, Moonblast plus Fire Blast, I don't kill things quickly, but nothing can kill me with Cosmic Power. So I get a free switch into the Clefable as it goes for the U-turn, and so it's like this is good. It's like I have forced Hydreigon out to a point where it now has to come in again on half health. I'm confident that whatever's there, I can probably do damage to it to the point where we could probably get it down and out next time it comes in. Aegislash comes in on the Clefable. This Mon is a problem because of how many good sets it has versus my team. It can be like defensive Toxic and just kind of sit in front of the team and Toxic everything to hell, and is King Shielded every other turn. It could be Autotomize, Weakness Policy, at which point it just clears, and that's not fun, apart from the fact that it could be Autotomize and still run Shadow Sneak, at which point Scarf Latios is not an issue for it, and so it's like this is a problem. So I chose to try and just spec this Mon out to begin with without trying really to do much to it. If it SD'd, I think the move was to go into Mega Houndoom and just sack that off, trying to just confirm the kill. But so I originally switched into land. Oh no, I switched straight into Mega Hound. Okay. This shows 10 weeks ago, at least. It goes for the Iron Head, and this Iron Head does too much. This Iron Head sets off alarm bells in my head, saying something's wrong here. This is doing too much, and so I calc it, and it's like, it looks like the Aegislash's choice band, and so it's like immediately I go, well, this isn't an issue anymore because actually I have so many counters to it, it just doesn't matter. But so the issue is though is that I then make the realization that actually if it gets a free switch in, then something is taking 40 or something, or I'm having to read what his play is, because if I make the wrong read, then I lose big amounts of HP and I lose a lot of value in the game. And the aim of Mons is to try and preserve your value whilst taking as much out of them. We see the Rotom come in and just sack. So this is for free switching into the Aerodactyl. And so here it's like I have an opportunity to try and just have the Aerodactyl disappear, because Houndoom has done its job. I go for a Destiny Bond, but it doesn't go for the finish. It was a nice little set of moves, because actually with Gen 6 mechanics, Mega Houndoom was quicker than Aerodactyl heading into the move, so I could actually get the Destiny Bond off and the Aerodactyl would take me down. However, the fact that it didn't kind of was an issue, but so at 16%, and given where we were in the game, I was not confident that I could actually get rocks off my side of the field before this comes back in, or before Houndoom is either forced to be sacked or is forced to come back in again, at which point it is sacked. So I'm happy to sack Mega Houndoom at this point. But so what we see is actually Hydreigon switches back in as Super Fang misses, and so I go for another taunt as it goes for the Roost, which is really handy. And so yeah, we go for another Super Fang. It's now down to a quarter. Something will take it out. I really wanted to be able to try and click. I was so tempted to click Destiny Bond, one of on turn 17. And because I was relatively certain that Hydreigon was gonna just click a move and it disappears, but so I wanted in that moment to try and get Hydreigon as low as possible, because once it is gone, it's just like it's one of two things which makes Clefable far more of an issue for him if it is down. And so the lower health it is, the less of an issue it is, because as much as it may roost, it's kind of like it's at a point where it is having to try and switch in so carefully onto things that it is out of the game at this point. But so we see Aerodactyl come back in and finish it. But yeah, so I come in with Clefable here. I can't really remember why. I think it was to try and bait in the Aegislash. Because I was now my focus had shifted to Aegislash to try and, having worked out that it was banned, or I was 70% certain it was banned. It's like, right, I need to try and get this mon in so that I can actually do damage to it, or I can do damage to everything else. At which point, it's forced to come in and then it falls. So we have a switch to Uxie as I switch out as well. Yeah. Into Landorus. As the Mega Arrow comes back in, I go for the knockoff, because knockoff on anything is going to be doing decent damage now. If I can knock off the Hydreigon, it's good things happen. And knockoff does a decent amount to Mega Arrow any which way, and it gets the item off any of Uxie, Roselia, and Aegislash, which all really need their items in this game, I felt. Or at least Yuxi was the one that least needed it, but it was a super effective move, at which point we were doing big damage to it. But yeah, so we see Mega Error come back in. I immediately switch because Tony was joking about having Ice Fang, and I just didn't want to wish away my Lando here. We're still at the point where in 5v5, as much as I have a lot more health on the board, I want to try and hold this lead until I'm confident that something can just switch in and clear out. At which point I'd start trading Mons off. So I go into Jellicent here, as it's like it's a decent switch in. I don't like crunches, but out of all of the Mons, Jellicent is the one that is most likely to be useless in this matchup from here on out. And so we do see the Ice Fang confirmed, at which point we then see Roselia come in, as I switch back out into Lando T, because I felt like, it's just, I want to get anything that isn't Aerodactyl or Roselia in. And so we do get Hydreigon out, and we manage to finish it. So it's like job done on Hydreigon. We're now on to trying to clear out Aegislash, because if we get Aegislash low, Clefable clears. And even if it doesn't actually, all we need is Clefable to be set up like +2 or +3, and the game is done from here. Hacks not being an issue, of course, because as we all know, Hacks is always is and will always be a win con. So we now get into this kind of back and forth between Roselia and Jellicent, because I was reluctant to bring anything in versus this. I mean, the only thing that I realistically would be Lando, but I was happy trying to out PP the Roselia, because Shadow Ball was going to get a drop at some point, and the Sludge Bomb had already got a poison. We hadn't had the third move revealed, but it's like it was Shadow Balls which were doing drops versus Sludge Bomb and Synthesis, where Synthesis only has 8 PP and Recover has 16. So this was a 1v1 that I was winning in the long run, and whatever decided to switch in did not want to take a Shadow Ball, or did not want to take, I think I had Scold on it as well for coverage. So it's like, and so we see Yuxi switch in, the 1v1 gives way, and we get a Toxic off into the Yuxi, putting it on a timer because it doesn't have any recovery. So it's another Mon now on a timer, which is going to die sooner or later. We then, at this point, with Roselia having used up half of its, this is probably one of the few misplays, I think, is sacking Jellicent here. But I didn't have a better move, I don't think, because I valued Landorus more highly than Jellicent. And I didn't really want to switch anything into the Aerodactyl, as it was far more comfortable just to click, I think it's a Scarf Shadow Ball on the Latios here, once something had been sacked, because it was going to do big damage any which way. So what we see is now Latios switches in, we get the switch to Aegislash as we go for the Shadow Ball. I held my breath in this move as I saw Aegislash switch in, because if it popped a weakness policy, I was in the house. I was right in the doghouse. But the thing is, though, is I'd already calced like 3 times before I made that move to make sure that I wasn't going to be about to pop a weakness policy. And so I was relatively certain it was banned, and so at the point when it switches in, along with that, seeing that it is banned, I'm relatively certain that what it's going to be clicking is Shadow Sneak, where at -1 with the Lando switch in, it's doing nada. So it's an easy switch into Landorus realistically here. And so what we see is we do see the Shadow Snake, only so it does more than expected, because I forgot to take into account for rocks. That happens. But so we now switch into Clefable, because actually Shadow Sneak is confirmed as the move, and so this is now the opportunity to just start setting up. And from here, it's like, given the fact that it takes 2 turns for Aegislash to switch out and switch back in, and it being the main thing that's most likely to clear us, we're at +2 before it gets in, and that's game. Like, these sludge bombs are doing a reasonable amount, but they're not doing nearly enough, and it's just like we keep setting up. The only thing that is going to scupper us here is a crit, which, I mean, it can happen. It has happened to me in the past. But it's like, at this stage, +3, the game is done. No matter really what happens here. It's like, additionally, there's only 6 more sludge bombs really that Roselia has. And so it's like, yeah, we just kind of play through to the end here. We get a burn and it goes down. We then have Aegislash switch in. We're actually quicker, but we see that the +4 isn't 2-hit KOing, and we're quicker, so it doesn't matter about any flinches or anything. We go for another Fire Blast. Yuxi switches in, but this is just holding off the inevitable. He goes for the flinch hacks, which is fair enough. I mean, if you're going to win a game, you want to win the game. So, and I mean, hacks is a win. Come on, you may as well use it. But so he doesn't, and so Clefable clears from here. And yeah, so that's week 1. So we beat Tony. It's like, it's the most undeserved win I feel like I have, because I just didn't put in prep, but it realistically pans out that actually the prep did work for the team. We move on into week 2, Gen 7. We're playing against Gohan. Gohan has a disgusting team. Just having Shaman Sky plus Jirachi plus Lele plus Garchomp, that's unfair. So I was not enjoying the prep for this game, but so I have a Ghostium Z Mew. Low Punny I think is relatively standard. Quillfish is Toxic Spikes, I want to say. I'm not certain though. It might also be Thunderwave. We have a Scarf Heatran. Aromatisse does... Oh man, I haven't talked about Aromatisse. No, it then turns up the first game I play. And Tangrowth. So this was an interesting game. So Ordino is the lead. We then have a switch into Garchomp. Tangrowth is happy taking I think it likes. And so we get a Toxic versus the Stun Spore, because what we wanted to do was we wanted to power up whatever was the Scarfer for his team, because once that was sorted, it enabled Heatran to clear. So the aim of this game was to put Heatran or Mew or Low Punny in a position to clear. And so from this, it was like, I think Mew and Heatran were the 2 win cons here. So what we see is we kind of play around a bit, and we have a Wish into Jirachi. We go for a second set of spikes as it goes for Calm Mind. At this point, I am bricking myself going, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This is going to be a very quick game, this 6-0. This is going to be like Season 2 again. Especially when we see the Flash Cannon do that much. We go for the knockoff, and the weakness policy pops. Having been so careful about it last week, we just go and pop one willy-nilly for the hit. This is the move that decides the game. So what we have is Shadow Z here kills the Jirachi. I'm scared though that Ordino will just switch in, thinking that this is probably going to be the play, and I pop my Ghostium Z at the first turn of opportunity, and Jirachi is still at like half health, and it's going to be able to be wished up again. and it will just be able to calm mind on anything, and the game is done at that point. And so the thing is, though, is I think like Shadow Ball, depending on the set, was a roll, and I was relatively certain that I could live one hit, or like it was a roll on me as well. What we see is we go for the Shadow Ball, it does 37, so it's relatively bulky Jirachi, and it flat out KOs the Mew. I think that was a high roll, but it is what it is. Rolls are rolls, you can't really do much about that. And so it's like, for me, if I click Shadow Z here, getting Jirachi off the field is so useful, because I'm struggling to deal with this set with what I have left. Heatran does a decent amount, but if it's calm-minded up, then it's like there's opportunities where it might be able to bulk past whatever I throw at it. So we bring in the low punny here, because we know that low punny will kill. This is a free turn to Mega Up. I choose not to Mega Up and go for the Fire Punch. Not sure why. And again, this is like this is a couple of plays which I'm really not sure about. I was reluctant to Mega, I think, because I was fast enough to outspeed most things, and I didn't want to gain the fighting type yet. But so what we see is the Ice Punch doesn't kill, at which point there's no point. I may as well just finish this thing and get it out. I live on 1 HP. This is fine. We see Tapu Lele switch in, and I get a free hit on it. It's like, okay, well that's free. It's good intel to know that Lele, not Scarf, means that we can chomp on it with Heatran. It means that we're probably a little bit wary of the Shaman Sky, because it might be Scarf, at which point Scarf Earth Power is going to decimate the Heatran. But what we're seeing here is that actually we've been let back into the game, because we have 15% Jirachi, we have 23% Lele, and we have 100% Shaman Sky, and the Silvally is a bit of an unknown, but the only issue is if it's normal and it's Scarf, because we're relatively confident that between the 3 mons that we have left, can probably do enough chip to it so that Heatran will then kill. So Heatran now is hand solo for us. Yeah, help me, can help me, my only hope. I'm going to get absolutely roasted for that. But yeah, so we immediately go for the Fire Blast, as we see that it is Scarf, but it goes for the defog because it wants to try and get in Jirachi for free again. So we actually clear the Scarf up. We clear the Scarf as well, and it's like Bulu is in. Bulu is in, and it clears Lele. Everything is good. We just need to get Ordino chipped. We think Ordino chipped 2 is the only thing here. And we see Thunder Wave from Ordino, and it's like, oh crap. Okay, so we need to be careful around Ordino because we need to get damage off on it without having Heatran T-waved up. And then Shaman Sky comes in, and it's like, okay, well this is a free Moon Blast. It doesn't kill us, so we're just going to try and get damage onto it. And it goes for a Healing Wish. And the Jirachi comes in, and all of my worst fears are realised once again. And so he reads the switch into Heatran, and so we have to switch back out again. And I think this might be a Mega Ordinal, I'm not sure. But so we go for a T-Wave of our own here, because Parahax is going to be, it's a Mega Ordinal. It goes back into the Jirachi, and it's like, this is now a losing game, because, and we see HP Ground. That's the other thing, is we see HP Ground here. And so we need to go for another Thunder Wave. We confirm that this is probably an HP Ground. We get both paralysed, which is lots of fun. And then it starts to go for Calm Mind. At a point when we're also paralysed, I can't remember what I was clicking here. Let's quickly refer back. What will have I been clicking? We're looking for Aromatisse. probably clicking either Wish or Thunderbolt, because if I was able to get the Wish off here, I think I may have lived a +1 HP ground with Heatran, at which point we had a way back into the game. So we see it's set up a second time, we then get the Wish off, and it's like, this is a done game at this point. The hilarious thing is that if I went for the meme set Heatran, so I wasn't running Eruption, but so if I had Eruption here, that would have killed, and it would have been game. Scarf Eruption just cleared, but so we lose 2-0, and so it's like the learning thing here for me was don't try and preserve if you are losing. If you're in a losing position and you have the opportunity to actually clear out the issue, then you need to take it. Because if I had Mew still up and Jirachi was gone, this game was winnable. And it's like, having come out of the gates with these first two games, I was really positive, because this game I did put in a lot of prep to. It looked and felt like I probably did bring the correct prep. The only thing that I felt like was wasted was the slot that Aromatisse had fitted in, because actually for my SM draft I probably could have had either a Gliscor or a Crawdont instead, and actually for this matchup Crawdont could have been really handy, or Gliscor, either of them could have been quite handy here. But so live and learn from that. And yeah, so that was what I felt like was the real kicker here for this game, was actually not clicking the Shadow Ball Z with Mew. What was Mew's, the rest of Mew's set here? Oh yeah, it was Double Dance as well. So it's like, if this got an opportunity to clear, this was finishing the game as well. But yeah, so I kind of outplayed myself in trying to go for the safe play on the pretenses that Gohan was going to preserve a compromised win con. And in reality, he did, but he didn't do it at that point, because he didn't think that Mew was going to kill him. Or at least if he did, then he had other ways of getting out of that situation. But yeah, so that was that. I think this is going to be the last game for this session. We might do one rotation of the metas for each video. So this is week 3. This is Gen 8. We're playing Blitz. Awesome battler, has absolutely tore me a new one like 3 or 4 times the previous times that we've played. I really wanted to get one up over him on this one, but I did not want to play into Blitz playing with a Kieran Black, because he is one of the, when I've seen him use a Kieran Black, it is terrifying. It's a mon that I don't have the mindset to be able to wield a Kieran Black, but he does, and he does it exceptionally well. I wonder how many adverts for Spotify you've had during this. But yeah, so we have our Libero Cinderace, the Tangela, Zapdos, Tapu Lele, Melmetal, and the Mudsdale. For the sets, we have heavy duty boots with Super Fang. I had a bit of a thing for Super Fang this season. It kind of wore off, but yeah, it's a good move, but it needs. I misused it for one particular game, which we'll get to in a future video. But yeah, low kick, because we have a Kieran Black and we have a Heatran Dix on them, and I was feeling like we'd have Protect, High Jump, Kick shenanigans. I didn't. We then have Stun Spore, Leech Seed, Knockoff, Infestation, Tangela. because I felt like I could probably get the Swampert or like the Thunderous out of the game using this one. I wasn't certain, but it's like, you know what, you run with what you play with what you think. I had a Scarf Zapdos with Discharge of all things. Don't understand why I put Discharge on that. That was a dumb mass move. Should have put Thunderbolt. Hurricane, U-turn, and Defog. Yeah, this was something else. Was in the first week I had crap removal because I kept on trying to fit Defog in on the Choice Scarf mon. We had Double Dance Tapu-Lele, bulky Double Dance Tapu-Lele, and this actually did quite nicely versus his team if we got the Heatran down and if we got the Rillaboom quite low. We then had Sub, Double Iron Bash, High Horsepower, Ice Punch, Null Metal, kind of just, yeah, this is a 252 set. And then a Max Spadef Mudsdale because Iron Defense into Body Press was doing really quite a lot versus Kyurem if it wants to go physical, and I had plenty of Spadef, and it's like also it could potentially deal with the Rillaboom as like a lure with the Iron Defense, and equally with the Swampert or the Persian. It's just like, this was actually a really nice mon to have for this game. And Rock's pressure was handy because look at his team. Yeah, so he leads Heatran versus Cinderace and then immediately switches out. Understandable, but so I went for a Super Fang predicting the switch, and we see Rocky Helmet Swampert. I go for a U-turn for some reason whilst taking the second set of Rocky Helmet damage. As we see the rest, so this is a really bulky Swampert. We immediately see the switch back into Heatran and then an Eruption, but we live the Eruption. This was huge because I think it was Scarf Heatran, if I remember correctly, and we've just lived, and we were just clicking High Horsepower because it's like, well, this is a free kill if it actually stays in. And it is, and so it's like, okay, we're happy to sack this off because actually over my W am I giving Kyurem an opportunity to set up a sub. We then go for an Ice Punch just to try and catch, I think it was the Thunderous or the Rillaboom on the switch. I don't know why Rillaboom is switching. And so we see we have another back and forth with Persian. We get it low as it goes for Parking Shot back into the Swampert. We don't fancy our luck here, so we switch into Tangler. Like, this is an easy Leech Seed opportunity, or an Infestation opportunity actually, because if we get the Swampert in, then the Swampert goes down very quickly. So we go for the knockoff first because we didn't want to deal with Rocky Helmet. The Rillaboom then goes for knockoff itself as we Infestation it in. And I was fully expecting to see U-turn, but no U-turn turned up. And so it's like, okay, well, this is an opportunity then. So the random thing is, I don't understand why I wasn't clicking knockoff here. I think it was because I felt like knockoff's damage wasn't going to be doing enough to offset the grassy terrain gain. So I just let Infestation do its thing. Yeah, and then I start clicking knockoff because actually it's worth clicking instead of just using up PP on, like, yeah, the 48 PP move. So yeah, and then it goes for another knockoff as I went for the Infestation again, and Tangler 1v1's a Rillaboom. We immediately get, yeah, we get Thunderous switch in, and it sets up, which is scary. So we knock off because it's like, okay, yeah, these were the two critical moves. So we knock off because we don't want to deal with any sort of Slack, Endure. I don't know whether Thunderous gets Endure, but it might get Endure. Yes, like Slack games. And then the Thunder Wave misses versus Cinderace, which is huge. Because it means that actually there could have been a way back into the game with Kyurem. And equally, it could have full parried on the first turn. At which point I lose. I just straight lose, I think. So this was a miss. This is something which is, again, needed to be noted, is that actually I was not best prepared for Thunderous. Thunderous is a mon which, again, I feel like I can't use personally. Other people can, and they completely tear me a new one with it. So I get rewarded here for whatever reason. RNG seemed to like what I was doing, and so we're in a 4v3 situation here now. And so we have the sleeping Swampert that comes in. And it's like, this is an opportunity for Lele to just set up. So, okay, we get Toxic, which is a bit of an issue. And then, yeah, so Swampert immediately thinks that what we're about to see is like a fully offensive Lele just to clear out. But actually, so we go for the double dance variant. He gets the knockoff, which is, again, not very good, but we're in a position here where I think this just clears. So the Kieran comes in. We see that it is quicker. I think that's just because of the sets. Again, we get rewarded. Should have lost again there, although we had enough out versus Kieran and Swampert. Yeah, and again, could have been hit 5 times, at which point this was not winning me. Yeah, and then so kiss. Okay, side shock I thought. Oh, I still pack. Maybe not. Okay. Either way, I went for the preservation, and then I get rewarded for hitting a hurricane as well, and I hit 2. So we are 2-1 come the end of week 3. We are top of the division. I am as high as the sky, but that is about to change come weeks 4 to 6, which we will talk about in the next video. This has been a long video. Yeah, this is nearly an hour. So yeah, I hope that this has helped. I hope that I can watch this back and actually go back over what I was thinking. But yeah, I feel like in some ways I was rewarded when I prepped lazily on weeks 3 and 1, and then was unfortunate that my play let me down in week 2. And actually there were plenty of ways where actually Blitz probably should have gotten an out there. Yeah, so I hope people have enjoyed. If you've made it to this far in, congratulations. This is going to be entirely unedited, so you're going to see lots of OBS. Ooh. I was about to do the Doctor Who thing. Yeah, so if anybody has anything that they feel like should be added to how I was thinking about playing these games, please hit me up. It helps. It helps. I want to get better. I've signed up to a couple of new leagues, which hopefully I'll be playing in the next couple of weeks, if I get in. And yeah, so onwards and upwards. We're going to be doing this critically. I want to try and really hash this out, get this down and done, work out where my weaknesses are, work out how to push forward, and how to better improve not choking, because not choking is something that really comes into effect with a couple of these games. Yeah. Anyway, I hope everybody has a lovely rest of the day, a good week, whatever you want. And yeah, enjoy the burp. Bye.